Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about how we can cultivate our own feelings of happiness and joy. And this is a topic that I will be teaching my next class series on beginning June 25th, which I'm very excited about because it's a very fun and insightful topic that can help us all to be a little bit more happier and joyful in our lives. And what we kind of have false assumptions about is that joy and happiness are something that happen to us based on life circumstances. So that it's something we feel if all conditions in our lives kind of align in the right way. And so when we don't feel them, we can easily project that onto, well, my life is just not going well, or things just aren't aligning and creating these conditions of happiness for me, and this is why I don't feel happy. So we kind of put it off onto life around us rather than taking agency over our own feelings and state of being. And I think it's really empowering to learn and to kind of switch our mindset into thinking that we can learn and strengthen our ability to generate our own feelings of joy and happiness. So they're not something that just occur to us, that are kind of arrive in our lives based on what's happening around us or what's kind of coming into our lives, but that they are actually a skill. They're a skill and a practice that we can feed and grow and develop for ourselves. And I know there are always circumstances that we need extra support as to why we feel like we cannot be happy. But this kind of mindful technique is one extra resource and way that we can start re-engaging with the joy and happiness in our lives, recognizing that we can actually generate it ourselves based on kind of the choices we're making, what we're focusing on, what we do with our mental space. And this is, I feel like, really hopeful and very empowering. So that rather than it just being a condition of like who you are and what's happening in your life, it becomes something that you can work towards and that you can start growing, and you have the ability to learn and develop the skill. And mindfulness helps us in learning this skill and developing it because it all has to do with where we're placing our attention and what we're bringing into our lives. And that this all depends on what our definition of happiness is. And we've talked about this before, of the idea of true happiness, which is a condition within ourselves that is the ability to recognize and appreciate the kind of small, maybe overlooked conditions of happiness that are always present in our lives. And the ability to do that is kind of developed and created as we build our mindfulness practice, because mindfulness is what keeps us aware of where our mind is going. When are we super scattered and focused only on the negative and the worries and telling stories about what could go wrong, negative predicting? And our mindful awareness helps us to observe when we are doing this. And it helps us to recognize what that does to our emotional and mental state of being. Like, oh, I'm focusing all on the negative stories and I feel a little depressed. I feel a little unmotivated or scared. And we start to link the two together, like, oh, where I place my attention affects my experience of life. And we start noticing that when we do place our attention there and we are living in this mode of whatever it is, worry or fear or sadness, it then alters how we are showing up in the world, what we engage in. So maybe when we're thinking all about the negative of what might happen, we're less likely to engage in fun, outward, shared experiences, right? We get a little more timid. We're less motivated. We aren't as enthusiastic when we do participate in things. We're hesitant, we're reserved, we're closed off. Maybe in our fear states, we're less trusting of other people. We automatically assume the negative they might do. So we're less friendly, we smile less, we're less open to sharing and connecting. Now we use our mindful practice to observe, oh, well, how does my internal state affect who I'm being out in the world? And how does that in turn create this reality that I'm living? It's kind of fueling the same reality I'm living in my mind. And is this really the reality that serves me best? Is this helping me to grow more happiness? Most likely, if we carry negative mindsets inside, obviously what I just explained, it creates the negative behaviors that then creates the negative reactions of the world around you, which then goes back into the feedback loop, feeds that sense of negativity even more, and then starts the whole cycle over. And so we start assuming, well, I'm just upset because I don't have a lot of friends to do things with, or life isn't really going my way, or things always fall apart, or there's nothing fun to do in town. These are all things that we are assuming are creating our unhappiness. But if we understand that cycle we just talked about, we can use our awareness to say, oh, this isn't actually the only reality available to me, and this is not the whole truth. And the skill that we are cultivating is to stop that cycle in its tracks and say, where am I able to adjust? Where am I able to shift or cultivate new mindsets that will actually start creating more happiness in my life? So we identify and we say, well, at the very root of all of this is my mind state. It's where I'm placing my attention, what I am choosing to focus on, and the perspective I am cultivating of the world around me. And this is where that little hopeful, empowering realization comes in of, I'm able to shift that. That is something that I can have agency over, and I can start using my mindfulness practice to redirect my attention and bring in thoughts and perspectives that serve me better, that allow me to see the goodness in life, that help me to then generate that reality and my way of being in the world that will continually feed the more positive experiences. And I'll talk a little bit more about that phase next week. But for now, go ahead and start with that beginning of using your mindfulness to notice that cycle in your life. What are your thoughts generating in your perspectives, in your words and actions that then create the reality you are living? And is there somewhere in that process where you can empower yourself to say, maybe it's time for me to learn new ways of engaging with this that serve me better and bring more joy and happiness into my life? If you enjoy this talk and this topic, I very much encourage you to take the next class series beginning June 25th, Mindfully Cultivating Joy. You can do that live in studio or via Zoom. And you can find all these teachings and more in my book, Living from the Heart, Healing Ourselves So We Can Heal the World. And my second book, which is coming out very soon, Healing Mindfully, which is more on illness, aging, pain, and how we can still live with peace, purpose, and happiness, even if our bodies are struggling and imperfect. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.